Well, hello everyone. I'm Fran Strickland, and this is Tapped In with Verily Biz Solutions. I'm the founder and owner of Vero Lead, and I am right here today with Amanda Craven. Now, Amanda is a clinical hypnotherapist and life coach, and she is the proud owner and successful owner of Not Just Coaching, and she works specifically in helping people through trauma, many times caused by their association with narcissists. Now, Amanda and I go back a ways
We
because she's been on my platform before, and I thought it would be fantastic for us to catch up with her and find out what she's doing now, as well as have the opportunity for her to share with us insights that can make a huge difference. You know, our platform is all about helping owners, founders, CXOs, entrepreneurs to grow and evolve, not only in their businesses, but also in their personal lives. And so, this is a topic, um, well being, that is so important to anyone's success. So, Amanda, thank you so much for coming back and giving me a chance to spend time with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm honoured to be called back, Fran. Thank you.
Well, I remember that we met now, I think it was back in 2023 originally, when
Yeah.
we were in a high level networking group
Mm.
together and learning together, and then we have stayed in touch since then.
Yes, yeah, our paths have crossed, haven't they, in many different ways, which has yeah, been really interesting.
Yes, and I remember also when I had you on the platform, we had such an extraordinary conversation about this space. And I certainly, as I said earlier, I would love to make sure that we have an opportunity to get into to some of those insights that's made a huge difference for so many people. But I'd like for you to just talk a little bit about, whom are you serving, and specifically what kinds of problems are you trying to help those people solve?
Right, yeah. Well, thank you for the introduction, which summed up beautifully what I'm about. I guess since our last chat, I have niched. I think the universe has nudged me in direction. So I am serving more people who have been impacted by narcissistic abuse, whether that's within the workplace or within a couple or within some other family dynamics. It can also be that narcissists are in every different arena of life, of course. So it can also be another type of connection, a friend, for example, or a business partner that we may have had to deal with the narcissistic behavior and traits. So I
Mhm.
think when we last spoke, I was probably working with leaders and entrepreneurs who had been impacted by childhood trauma in particular. But what I have discovered, and on this journey that I'm on, is that there tends to be a correlation between early trauma. And that can be trauma with a small t, not just a capital T, not just the trauma that we all know and recognize immediately as trauma. It can be emotional neglect, emotional abuse, as well as other things, as I say, that we know immediately are trauma. And there is a very strong correlation between people who have found themselves in some form of narcissistic relationship or some sort of relationship with a narcissistic abuser and early childhood trauma of some form. So it's kind of bringing that all together that I am able to combine my own lived experience of surviving 2 narcissistic abusive marriages, and my professional training into these programs, one-to-one and group programs, based on a newly evolved empowered healing compass that we may have time to talk about in a few moments. And bringing together all of these things means that I am able to do more targeted work and more transformative, that is turbo boosted by the lived experience as well as the professional experience. I've probably gone east there, Fran.
No, no, no. I think that I think it's important to put in context what you do, because there's a variety of modalities and coaching approaches that exist that they fit different people.
Mm,
And one of the things that we're most concerned about is that people come into situations where they can feel safe and be able to benefit from whatever that service or support is that they're getting. So
mm,
it's really helpful to hear how you actually have evolved your
mm,
practice, leveraging the lived experience in such a way that it actually bolsters the impact that you can have in addition to the other. And I know as hypnotherapists and psychologists that you have a number of methodologies that you can use in helping someone who's working with you. But it's
yeah.
also good to know that this is not just an academic approach. It
No.
is coming out of what you have experienced
Mm,
yourself.
yes.
Now, I don't want to resurrect painful moments, but I would like to hear a little bit more around your story
Mm,
and how is it that you decided to do this type of work versus maybe a different type of work in
mm,
helping and supporting people?
right. So I can't remember, but we possibly talked about it last time, that I've done many different jobs. I've run many different businesses that I have either sold or let go of and moved on. So I have very much evolved over the last few decades. Um, Having a cancer diagnosis 17 years ago was what introduced me to the power of hypnotherapy. That was when I first had hypnotherapy to help me deal with the trauma and associated with that diagnosis and the subsequent treatment and surgery. And then another key moment, I think, was after I had finished my treatment. I was looking for something fresh, a new start. And so I did a lot of reflection, a lot of thinking. I knew that I had to get out of my marriage at the time, and was dealing with that. And I started training in hypnotherapy in order to start a new business and to become financially independent. But I was still very much dealing with post-separation abuse, which is a real thing that people are only just starting to talk about. You tend to think once you've separated or divorced, that's it, you finished, you move on. But with narcissistic personalities, post-separation abuse is a real thing and goes on. So I was rescued by my he became my second husband, uh, who supported me. He was my knight in shining armor as I was dealing with this new abuse, as well as healing from cancer and starting a new business. And it was only a few years later, when I started processing what had happened, that people were starting to talk about narcissism, not just in a throwaway, they're really selfish kind of way, but really going into the traits that are associated with this.
Mm-hmm.
That is when I realized that my second marriage was to a narcissist, and I drew parallels with the first one and realized that my first husband was also a narcissist. But because they were both covert types, and this means that, as I said earlier, I think that to the rest of the world, they present the most wonderful persona. They are capable, they are charming, they are humorous, they are a pillar of the community. Most people see them as an amazing human being, but behind closed doors, they are abusive. And so I started to put the pieces of this puzzle together and realized what was going on. So during this time, I'd been supporting people coming to me for hypnotherapy who'd had lots of different things. Maybe they weren't sleeping, maybe they were having unexplained pains, maybe they were having relationship issues, maybe they wanted to lose weight, maybe they wanted to stop an unhealthy habit. And I had realized that the root cause of 99% of those things people were coming to me for was early trauma, childhood trauma. And so also realizing that people who become victims and then survivors of narcissistic abuse are primed by early trauma to become the perfect targets. So it was like a cycle, and this realization that there were all these connections, and I had the perfect skill set to really make a difference. So that all that coming together meant that I was able to pivot since our last chat, and to help people become aware that they were going through trauma, what they were experiencing was or is abuse, because that awareness is crucial. And I've also, since our last chat, developed the Empowered Healing Compass, which has 4 points that are thread throughout my one-to-one programs and my group coaching. And that is, awareness is the first point, followed by the healing work. We can't heal if we're not aware of what's been going on, what trauma is, what it looks like, how it's showing up now in adulthood, in our business, in our relationships. Then we move on to goal setting as we start to look forward, and then growth. And all these points, they kind of go in a cycle, but there is some looping back, and there is some cycling through these. And yeah, so it's just come together beautifully, that a framework that was at the core of what I was doing anyway, I've been able to name that and use it and help people understand the power of working through what they have been through in this way, using this template.
So Amanda, there were a few things that really that really stuck with me that you've just said. One is, I mean, we know that awareness is the beginning of change. I mean,
Mm,
that's kind of fundamental. But what struck me is that I heard you saying that many people, I would say the vast majority of people, if you would agree, that they're really not cognizant of having experienced trauma.
mm.
Now, what would you say is behind that kind of lack of awareness?
I think at the core of that is low self-esteem, loss of self-confidence, because that is what abuse does to us. It wears us away. It makes us small. We become small. We make ourselves small. We make our voice small so that we can try to keep the peace, so that we can try to minimize abuse. And when this goes on, we adapt at first without being aware of it. We just start to pick up on things, topics that are going to trigger an abusive person, a narcissistic person. So we start avoiding certain things. There are things that with a healthy person we might have said, well, when you do that, it doesn't make me feel good. Or in a work situation, when you talk like that at a meeting, I find that belittling. So, do you think we could have a talk about that? And with a reasonable person, they may sort of be taken a little aback at you questioning something, but they will work through it. But with an abusive person, with a narcissistic person, they will not react well. They will explode. They will give you the silent treatment. They will punish you in some way for daring to speak up, speak out, and point out that they are not perfect. So we just innately know that it's better to avoid certain things, and we try and smooth things over. We try and preempt what could happen and try and make sure that that scenario doesn't arise. So all these things over time mean that we change as a person, and we may have been a confident, outgoing person at the beginning of the relationship, and this was my case. But by the end of it, or after a few years, and in many cases, certainly many clients I deal with, decades, you're a completely different person at the end of it. And so you've lost your power, you've lost your voice. And of course, you're not going to say, oh, this was really bad. Yes, it was abuse, because the narcissist or the abuser will have primed you, will have said to you, that's not abuse. If you want, that's whatever I've done is okay. And they say these things with such conviction that you accept it because you're diminished anyway. And they are always right. They are so convinced, and they deliver it with power and with a strong voice. And so you think, well, I must have got it wrong. Well, that it's not abuse. So yeah, you come out of it knowing that something wasn't right. But again, it was my case. I didn't name it as abuse. I didn't name it as trauma until much further down the line.
So what I'm hearing is that part of that lack of awareness actually is a consequence, one of learning how to cope.
Mm,
I say filling in the gaps, the parts that help you feel safe within yourself.
yeah.
But then the counterbalance is being in a situation that causes you to question your own feelings and observations and what you see as true,
Mm,
and basically saying, okay, they must be right. Now, I think that's what you call gaslighting, right?
absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's,
Okay. So it kind of works together to keep a person in the fog and um, subjected and receptive to this kind of abuse.
mm,
Now, you were able in the course of your journey, because you had built your hypnotherapy practice, you were able to discover yourself and your ability to help others. And I imagine that was an enormous boost for you in your journey, your transformation.
mm.
In what ways can someone help themselves
Hmm.
to to navigate, or if they're even suspect, because I know now they talk about narcissism a lot more,
Yes.
but just the sense that something is not right and you're on the receiving end of something that's not supportive of you. What would you tell someone that they should think about doing or helping, to help themselves?
Hmm. I would say that the first thing would be to find somebody who you really trust and confide in them. Start running things by them, because sometimes you need another person to say, that's not acceptable, that's not okay, because you have been conditioned to believe that it is, and to stop questioning it. And sometimes we need somebody else to actually voice it and say, no, no way, that is not right. So finding somebody you can really trust and confide in, even if you're not sure, you can you can talk to them about things that have happened. And another trait, if you like, of this sort of abuse is that it tends to be small things, relatively small things that happen. There are some instances of awful physical abuse and sexual abuse, but the majority is drip, drip, drip. So if you start saying to somebody, oh, I, my spouse, my husband, my wife gives me the silent treatment if they don't get their own way, and you think, okay, well, that's a bit childish, but whatever. But actually, when somebody consistently gives you the silent treatment every single time, you don't do exactly what they want, how they want it, when they want it, and there is a pattern, then that is really destructive, and that leads to that erosion of confidence and self-worth and self-identity. So sometimes we need somebody else to join those dots and to notice the patterns. So that's one thing. And that trusted person, it could be a friend, it could be a family member, maybe a colleague, or a good boss that you can confide in. It could be a therapist, of course, or a coach. And if you're going down that route, then choose somebody who is trauma informed, somebody who does have experience with the type of abuse you believe you may have. And secondly, just start educating yourself. Read around it on YouTube. There is plenty of stuff out there. Be discerning who you listen to. There's some rubbish out there, of course, but there are some very good therapists and coaches who will educate you. Read up on it. And thirdly, start journaling. If you just note down, when you can put it in an app on your phone, and a lot of people will describe it as a shop, or label it as a shopping list or something like that, if you're worried about the other person seeing it. Or have a physical journal if you can keep it safe, and just get all these things that are going on, these thoughts, these irrational behaviors, these confusing situations, because confusion is a large part of it, on the back of gaslighting in particular, as you said. And that will enable you to look back and to spot those patterns. And that is what will give you the clue and give you that light bulb moment. And you think, okay, this makes sense now. I know why I'm feeling this way. It's because it is because of them. It's not because of me. And that doesn't mean that you are saying you are perfect and never put a foot wrong, but you're not the abusive one.
Wow. Wow. So something just popped into my head, and I know we're nearing the conclusion, and there's a few things that I want to be sure to do. because I want you to talk about your new program and then tell us how to connect with you. But this popped into my mind
Mm,
because, of course, it seems to happen, particularly in our more intimate relationships, part with partners, that
mm,
we can experience probably, significant levels of abuse.
mm.
Sometimes we might be subject to it, or at an employer where at one point in that space you were working.
Yeah.
And the reality is I was just reflecting on some friendships.
Mm,
People that you may spend a lot of time with, you may spend a lot of time confiding to, and you step back and you look at a pattern with them, and you see that they indeed are narcissists as well.
yes.
And I remember specifically having someone in my life that was just a fantastic individual, very kind, very helpful, but it was a society. The network of friends were a society in homage to that person.
Mm,
And whenever someone did not quite respond the way they thought they should respond, then the relationship was fractured.
mm,
Um, and I mean, when I say fractured, completely released and walked away from.
mm,
So that point you made about being conscious of the individuals that you engage with for this support
mm.
is so critical,
Yes.
to make sure that you don't, quite frankly, replace one situation with something that may be just as traumatic or hurtful.
Yes, yeah. And that can and does happen until you have that full awareness and you have identified all the traits and behaviors and begun your own healing journey. Until then, you're quite likely to be attracted to and attracted, uh, sort of magnetically attractive, no, attracted to and attractive to narcissists, because you have those empathetic, um, compassionate traits that and are easily malleable, have low self-esteem because you've already been in an abusive relationship, and you will just be the perfect target for narcissists in the future. But when you were talking about friends and friendships then, Fran, I was reminded that this has happened to me also. And once you start having those light bulb moments, you will be able to actually declutter your life of
Mm.
narcissists, because you will find there are a few there, for sure, in your life in different arenas. But another sign that somebody could be a narcissist is somebody who uses the word should a lot of the time,
That word.
especially when they are talking about other people's responsibilities. They won't be talking about what they should be doing, but that can be a little light bulb, let's say, a little clue that's resonated
Mm.
with you.
It sure does. I have tried to eradicate the word should. I
Mm,
try to live in a space that there is no should. It
mm.
is I get to. I get
Yeah,
to.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, we all do say it from time to time, even if we think that there are better phrases we could use. But a narcissist will always tell you what you should be doing, what you should have done, what you should have said. So that's just a little tip to listen out for.
Well, I will most definitely do that. And I do remember that friend of mine used that term in particularly with me in a situation and what I should be doing. And when
Mm,
I said, no, I should not be
mm.
doing that because I wasn't even there. But that was the end of that conversation and friendship. But I am in my well being. So no
Mm.
regrets.
Yeah, no, good for you.
So we have a few more minutes. I want you to spend, like just a minute or so telling us about your most recent addition in your programs that you use to serve your
Mm.
clients. Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. So, really exciting. I've just launched the Confidence Comeback Club for women. It's a group coaching program. It is super high value and very low ticket. It's just £12 a month. And the women in the group uh, improve their confidence through a few live events each month, through a supportive secret Facebook group, and access to a private library that has all the replays of the events and extra resources. So it's a real 360-degree container. And I support the women in the Facebook group. They get a weekly email from me, and I run a masterclass once a month and a book club. So we choose a book, or I choose the book actually at the moment, but informed by what the women in my group are looking for, um, and we cover topics such as, well, next week we are looking at speaking with confidence in various scenarios, both work and professional. Last month we looked at how we plan for change and set frameworks for goals. Our book that we're looking at the moment is called Know Your Worth, and we have one book per quarter, so that we're not adding too much homework to these, and they can just take their time going through it, and we use that as a springboard for other discussions. In addition to that, we have two live drop-ins. They are both live events. We have two live drop-ins on a Friday, and that is just a space where we can mop up any questions from the masterclass or book club the previous week, or just troubleshoot anything that's going on for anybody in the group. So it's an open table that the ladies can bring their questions to, and support each other in that way. And of course, I'm there to guide.
Mhm. Wow. So I always heard that an ideal scenario for people who are, who are or seeking help, and particularly when there is a group opportunity, a community opportunity, that there is the space for learning individually, that you have someone around who's knowledgeable, who can instruct and help you, build your understanding and growth. And then that there is a community around you, that there can be sharing, one that you're safe in, and
Yeah.
and you can support other people and be supported. So you have all those things going on, and it's supplemented with some fantastic um, 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 exchanges and activities that really help people to build and grow. So
Yes.
that is a fantastic add-on
Mm.
since we talked. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, really, yeah, really pleased with that. And my objective, because of course I do one-to-one programs as well, which is all about the deep healing work. This group coaching is not it's not a replacement for therapy, but it is this safe space and container. And for the price of what is normally a DIY course where you can just download things and access, and you have a whole overwhelming library of resources, you are guided through this, and you get me live um, minimum 4 times a month. So yeah, I've tried, and I've learnt through trialing other types of programs. I've tried to create something that ticks most of the boxes, and will help, really help women step into their confident selves, take back their power in this way.
Wow, fantastic. So now, Amanda, just just before we go, because we'll be wrapping up in about a minute or so, Can tell us how can people reach out and tap into your expertise?
Right. So, yeah, I'm on YouTube as the
Mhm.
Empowered Woman Today. I have my website, which is empoweredwomantoday.com, and I'm on LinkedIn as Amanda Craven. But I think you're going to be really kind and put links in the description to the to this podcast as well, just in case people don't get that.
Absolutely, sure will. When we go live, we will put the links so that you can reach Amanda right in the comments section, and you can just have a really wonderful time. Make a point to spend some time with her. She's a delight to spend time with,
Oh, thank
and
you.
also would be a delight if you're having some challenges, a safe place to speak to someone who's quite caring and quite capable.
Thank you, Fran.
Well, folks, time always flies. We
Mm.
have such great guests with such interesting backstories and great expertise. And we're now at the end of this episode. I really appreciate you joining us. Again, when this goes live, you will see Amanda. You will have the information where you can reach her. I'm Fran Strickland. My work is with small businesses and helping them to achieve predictable profits and performance. I can be found on LinkedIn as Francis Melvina Strickland. But if you decide that you want to ask any questions in the business place, give me a shout. I'd love to spend some time with you. And Amanda, thank you so much for
Oh,
your time. I wish you the best in this new addition to your venture. Continue to grow and evolve as you have. You look beautiful, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in some other spaces. So
thank,
that's it, folks. Thank you so much, and see you soon.
yeah, thank you. Thank you for watching, and thank you, Fran.
Sure.